in Lorraine, the marriage part will suffer. And so I feel if I really do everything he wants me to do, we'll never see each other. Because right now, like I said, most of the times when I come home at 6:30, he's on his way out the door. And so if I really accepted every engagement or whatever, come on, somebody has to use some kind of wisdom in the house. And so to me, I think it's a compromise. We have to sit down, we still have to talk about some things because now his responsibility is even greater. He has churches underneath him, which takes us out even the more. I'm glad we have one of the members here. He's done a lot now.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to sit down and we have to actually plan time for us on a calendar. Yeah. And I actually seen, I think Bishop Jakes or someone was saying, sometimes when you get so busy, you have to put time in. You have to really put it in for yourselves. And I think a lot of marriages, when we talk to other pastors and first ladies, that's the main struggle that they have, is finding times for themselves, because the members are going to pull on you. You're going to always be bishop and first lady.
Yes.
They're not going to ever see you as a married couple. And if you don't make time for you, no one else will. And so when my son said that about the bride, that just, I'll say, okay, that's my prayer. Lord, you have to help him to understand that the church is your bride.
Yeah.
You take care of them, and he has to take care of me.
I think part of it too, and then I'm getting ready as pastor about balancing, and we're definitely gonna bring in this thing about the children, is I think sometimes the congregation, wherever you're pastoring or wherever you're over, needs to realize that we are human. Just like they need rest, we need rest. Just like they need to get away, we need to get away. And so I remember years ago, we were getting ready to go on vacation, and I had to catch myself, but it was a bit too late. I already kind of let it out. But we were in a meeting, kind of a setting, and you said, okay, and first lady and I getting ready to go on vacation. We were going for a week. He said, but I'm going to give everybody my number. And I went, and then I said, excuse me, we may have to adjust that a little bit, but we're going to get back with you. And so, because we have to realize there has to be a cutoff.
Yes.
Not that you don't love the people, not that you don't support the people, not that you wouldn't be there, but I'm also your people. I was your people. You know what I'm saying? I am your wife and your and your children. And if we don't find a balance in that, that's when children really begin, I believe, to get that, to really feel, oh, well, then he put them before us.
Yes.
Or he'll sit down and talk to them, but he won't sit down and talk to me. So that's important in terms of talking the balance, to realize, yes, you are called, but you also have a family that God has blessed you to be a priest over the household. What kind of example are you setting? And so I think it has to be a working together. It has to be a balance. If not, something is going to outweigh.
Right.
And there are going to be times when church may outweigh, but then there has to be a time when family is going to outweigh. Because I remember having to do a message some time ago, how do I minister in my own household? And if I can minister to everybody else and can't minister in my own household, I still fall short. So balancing is important to that. So I'm going to ask Pastor Morse, what's one of the ways that pastors, first ladies, or whatever can balance things out, that where the children don't feel left out, and just balance things between the church and the home?
You're just going to have to make the time and the sacrifices. First Lady Betton has indicated, when you get to the point that you are actually scheduling time, then you know you're out of balance. And we've done that several times. It's like, okay, we'll have to schedule it. It's like, just the thought of that I've got to plan things with respect to my family just irks me in a way that I really can't describe. So it's like, okay, you have to make the time to deal with the various balancing things. One of the main things that I think that couples in ministry have to do, and they have to work on individually and collectively, is making sure that they have balance in their relationship in spite of the pressures that are coming from the outside. There are enough pressures on the inside, but all the pressures and the expectations on the outside are going to constantly bombard you. And it's one of the things that I have had a little help subliminally to a great extent, is that I also have to balance ministry with what I do vocationally. And so when I get to the point where I'm seeming like I'm overwhelmed there, I fall back to the particular thought many times, like when I leave the office, this stuff is gonna be here when I get back.
Yeah.
Okay? And if I were to just 24/7 throw myself into it, it's not gonna make it move any quicker than it is moving right now. God forbid, if I would kill them and fall dead right now, all they're gonna do is move somebody else into this spot to do the particular work. So why let that thing kill me? Because if I let it kill me, first off, it's gonna kill my marriage. So I'm not gonna let it kill me, and that way I can make sure I put balance with respect to the relationship. And I've been able to see a whole lot more of that with respect to my present situation in recovering, is that, okay, things function without you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna go on. And if you have done the things that are necessary with respect to shepherding and ministering well, they're going to perform without you. So just let it take its course, and you do what's necessary with respect to your particular situation at that time. So you just have to make that balance and sacrifice and compromises to make sure that things are going well with respect to all aspects. And so I'm constantly asked all the time, how do you balance ministry, being a family person, as well as being in a high profile things as being a judge? I tell them all the time, I have no clue how I do. And first off, I don't want to know how I do it. Because if I had any clue about how I do it, I would mess it up. So I just let God deal with it. As long as He's dealing with me, I do my best to make sure that there's going to be balance in everything that I'm doing, so that I don't have these breaches. I don't get my family in a glitch where they feel that they're second. And I know with all the things that I tend to do, being a people person, whatever it is, I'm forced to be a people's person in my vocation. And whether I want to be or not, that's required of that particular aspect. In the ministry, I can be a people person one way or the other, but I have to make sure that the family gets the attention, the nurturing, the teaching and loving and everything that is necessary to make sure that the family thrives as much as my vocation or my ministry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Before we move to a second note, I want to kind of be transparent just a moment. God has shown me through the years, and this probably, I hope this will help some of the younger pastors that are coming up as well, who are young in their marriages. I have had to really come to grips with the fact that this is my wife, and she knows me better than anybody else. And what she says to me, I believe, is in my best interest. I may not always want to receive it, but I've had to come to grips with this. And sometimes as husbands, I can only speak for me, it's hard to hear from your spouse sometimes, both your strengths and your weaknesses. We love their strengths, but the weaknesses sometimes it's difficult to embrace. But I've come to understand that what she says to me, she says out of love, and she says because she has our best interest in mind. I didn't always see it. I always thought you're trying to hold me back, you're trying to slow me down. The Lord is trying to bless me, the Lord bless me. But I had to realize that she had, she's had the right. And she was right. And the second part of that is, the church, if we're not careful, psychologically, the enemy uses the church against us. Because when I would go to church, they loved their pastor. So kids running up to you, people pulling on you, make you believe you're Superman, make you believe that they can't make it without you. And so you go into the house of God with this euphoric feeling that they can't wait till I get there. And everybody will tell you this. The church has made us think we're
Superman.
Yes, and that we're all of that and then some. And if that's not happening at home, but it's happening when you go to church, then you'll want to go to church more than you be at home. And that's what the enemy does. He uses the church to try to make us feel like we can't make it without them, they can't make it without us. And your husband said something that I think is so true. somehow we've got to realize they gonna go on without us. We just came off of vacation. Thank God I had people in position who can preach.
Yeah.
They can lead. They can do other things. I don't need to be there for everything. It's taken some years to realize that. So I cannot afford to let the church woo me. God put me in a position to be a shepherd. And a shepherd is not one who has to put himself in a position where he's so close to the sheep that he starts to smell like the sheep. That he starts to be a sheep instead of being the shepherd. And so she's helped me in so many ways that she probably doesn't realize that I had to really back up and realize, you know, you don't go to church because you know those people there, they just gonna shower you. But them same people that shower you will be the same people that walk away from you. And she'll be the one standing by my side. So I had to really embrace that understanding that just be a shepherd. God called you to be a shepherd, but this woman will be with me for the rest of my life. So I've got to really hear her heart when she comes to ministry. I'm wrong with this brother.
Yeah,
And I think that's the greatest struggle with pastors and their wives, because when that was one of our worst times, is when we were going through that. And I had to let him know, and it's not to be funny or throw off on him, but it's just the truth, that saints will make you feel like Superman, but I know you're Clark Kent. I see you when you're being Clark Kent. And it's the members, when they see your Clark Kent, will walk out and leave you and realize you ain't as much Superman as they thought you was. And so I had to let him know, we're talking about balance. You have to realize that you're not Superman. You could be Superman while we're in service, and then you also have to let them know you're Clark Kent. You have to let them know that there's a humanity side. There's a another part of you. And once the church see the whole you, I think then that's when the balance comes in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, and I think that sometimes we do allow the church to make us feel like we're somebody that we're not. You're not, and that's it's all in the news now. Pastors doing this, pastors falling by the wayside, this, that, and the other, because they can't handle the pressure when they realize that they're not Superman.
You would want to say something?
I probably just follow up on it. As Bishop Betton has indicated, over the years I've had to learn to accept, not so much from our relational standpoint, I've always accepted the fact that she's a person, she's my wife. But in the ministry aspect, sometimes, as you said, sometimes it's difficult to hear from your spouse with respect to various aspects, which in our aspects, it's about the only time that we ever have, we don't fight, we don't argue. Yeah.
Strong discussions.
We have strong discussions. But anytime we have a strong discussion, we always pray before we have a strong discussion.
Exactly.
But it's to make sure that we respect what each other thinks, feels, and everything else. And she has no problem expressing the way she feels. So I've always had the benefit of that aspect during my ministerial aspect, that when she feels that something is tugging on us, she has no problem jumping in and saying, hey. And so I have to have a listening ear to the fact that, okay, where do I need to make adjustments? How do I deal with this in such a way, whether it's with respect to her, whether it's with respect to the kids, so that it does not cause an irreparable rift that I cannot deal with down the road. So it's hearing, and sometimes with us, not without strong discussion or whatever, but after effect, sometimes it's that sometimes, which I'm trying to work on more and more, is I've got to minister to her in such a way that it gives her the feeling, the impression, everything else, that I heard her. And that's sometimes just part of my stoic personality, is that, I don't give you feedback just by looking at you. Because what I do otherwise requires me just to look at you and make assessments. And you can't read me by looking at me. And so that causes a little, because the way she tends to relate is she feeds on the interpersonal stuff that goes back and forth. And so she has to have me expressing, she has to have me at least making some kind of gesture or comment that gives her affirmation that I heard her. Yeah. And many times it's like, okay, yeah, I heard it, and I received it, but I've got to work on making sure that I minister to her in such a way that she understands that I heard it and I received it. And it's so important that in the relationship that the one who is pastor or who has the lead role with respect to ministry is making sure that the other spouse understands and feels part of what you are doing, and not just that I am here as a symbol for you because of either your expectations or the expectations of those outside.
You said something earlier about wife being a helpmeet, and then you just said, but you just talked about how the things she said because she's concerned, and the things that she needs because she really loves you. To me, that's a great example of the helpmeet. The helpmeet is not for us to tell you everything you want to hear, but the helpmeet is to tell you because we love you. And then to me, that's how we step up and do what it is that we want to do. Not that we don't think you can do, but he likes to say she keeps me grounded. And sometimes, if not, if our head in the clouds, regardless of what position you are, you may not be a pastor, you may just be whatever you do in vocation, whatever it is, that you have people that will build you up, but they won't tell you the truth. You need somebody, accountability is what your theme is for the year. Somebody who is close enough that to hold you accountable and say, no, this is what you need to look at, this is what you need to do. And I think that's something that it's not always easy to do, but it is necessary to do, and it helps us to walk together better, I believe. The children, I know I've had conversations with my children over the years. They appreciate ministry, they understand because they've been in it since we were born, since they were born, at least knowing that we are. But I know for a fact that it's not always been easy. And, just